Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Tamara Bucky, and you're listening to the Raise Your Own Bar podcast. With me today, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Daniel DeBrincat, who is a video producer, an entrepreneur, and an all around hustler based out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Welcome, Daniel. How are you today?
Hi, doing great. So happy to be on the show. I got to meet you during Patrick David's AI call, and you were in the chat, and we connected that way. And I think this is so cool that you're starting this podcast, and that I'm able to be on. You said the fifth episode, right?
Yeah, episode 5. Yeah,
I'm honored.
so this is the power of connectivity right here, isn't it? Look, I just barely met you a week ago virtually, and now here we're sitting down to learn more about our lives and how we're out here making a difference in the world. And that is the power of connecting on LinkedIn and just being open to connecting with people on Zoom calls. And, it was the Patrick Bet David AI conversation, which I thought was very timely.
Yeah, me too. LinkedIn, people underestimate LinkedIn so much. I use LinkedIn to get the job with Pat. I use LinkedIn to connect with hundreds of people. Opportunities. I mean, I've hired people on there. I connect with people like you. I've made friends on there. In Valuetainment, we have two different buildings. We have like a sales department, and then we have the creative team. And I don't really like meet anybody in real life over on the sales side, but I connect with everybody on LinkedIn. I comment, I like, and then when I end up crossing paths, we already know each other. It's great. I love LinkedIn. Can't stress it enough. It's the best. It's
That's
the only
awesome.
it's the only social that I even have, because it's the only one that I don't know. I see like fruit come of it.
I would have to agree with you there, although I do have all the other social medias for both my personal and my business.
Yeah.
But yeah, for LinkedIn has brought me job opportunities. Like I haven't applied to jobs like the past 3 jobs that I got when I was still in the workforce, I got from connecting with people on LinkedIn. Like it's amazing.
Underestimated. I would highly recommend. There are people in real life that I talk to that are so charismatic and all this. They're like people's people. Like they just connect so easy, and they have no LinkedIn presence at all, or even an account, and it blows my mind.
Yeah. Well, if you don't have a LinkedIn, I encourage you to start one, especially if you want to grow in your career or your business. Great point. Well, Daniel, let's talk about valuetainment. I
Okay.
love the company. I love the PPD podcast. I've been a fan for I would say over a decade. I'm not even sure when valuetainment started up, but I've been watching for a long time
That's
and have
awesome.
learned a lot as an entrepreneur from the team.
Yeah, I love value. I was a value-tainer before I began to work there. I heard Pat on the Joe Rogan experience back in like 2021, and I've been tuning in ever since to his podcasts and to the videos that he makes, the how-tos and current events and those kind of a little bit more higher production ones. And I I found out on January 1st at a New Year's party that they were hiring. And I've been an entrepreneur my entire career. I've just been like a freelance videographer. I took a lot of pride in the fact that I could travel around the country and do anything I want, anytime I want. And I was making good money. I said I would never work for anybody. When I found out that Pat and Valuetainment was 10 minutes down the street, and that they were hiring, I had to apply, and I applied. They get like between 2,000 and 4,000 applications a week.
Oh wow.
So the odds of them even seeing it are slim. So I printed my stuff out, and I walked over there in a suit and handed them the stuff in real life and asked, "Hey, who can I connect with?" They told me connect with this guy Sam on LinkedIn. I asked to take him out to eat, and he says, "Yeah, sure." So I took him out to eat, and I pretty much sold him on why they need to hire me. And then here I am,
Wow.
valuetainment, baby. It's like a
That
dream
is
come true.
amazing. Wow, that is amazing. Congratulations. That was just in January of this year.
Yeah, yeah, it was recently, but I have become so it's so intriguing to me how I've been so passionate about film for so long. Since I was 8 years old, I've been making YouTube and been on social media and been filming things. I think my first paying gig was when I was 12. I filmed a bar mitzvah. I don't know. I'm not even Jewish. I look Jewish, but I'm not Jewish. Um, but I've been very passionate about this, but working with a company that has values and principles so defined and an audience to share them with and share ideas with and inspire and be able to make content that I can see in real life people's thoughts and opinions changing. People that don't even watch the content that might just know somebody that watched it that shared with somebody else, like that ripple effect, I think is so amazing. And I just can't help but to jump out of bed and work way past 5 o'clock. I mean, I remembered we had this Zoom call, so I clocked on and came over to my house, but I just love it. And it's when you're doing something that you love, it doesn't even feel like work at all. And yeah, valuetainment's that for me, just cool.
That is amazing. And it's so interesting to hear about somebody jumping from being an entrepreneur to going and working for another entrepreneur. Although I'm sure it's you're still wearing that entrepreneur hat for PBD as well because of all the different things that they've got going on. So very interesting. If there was an office here in Huntsville, I would probably apply myself because it would just be amazing to work with such a such a group of people. So
Yeah.
totally understand how that goes. And I have the pleasure of working. I have a client that I treat like they treat me like an employee. And that's for Scott Dickers, who is the guy who founded The Onion. And he's got a company called How to Write Funny. And How to Write Funny is all about comedy writing, character writing, sketches, film, stand up, etc. And so now I get to work for him part time. And it's under my business brand that I'm helping him through consulting. And I get to facilitate writers' rooms. That's what I was doing before I met with you today, where we just meet with other creative people and share material and kind of workshop it. And I'm learning so much from him. So, I mean, the value is just like, I would work for free. Don't tell him that, but that's how I feel because what
Hopefully he
everything
doesn't
I'm
watch this.
learning.
So okay, this is okay, that is so cool. So you haven't always been an entrepreneur, right?
No, I mean, although I've always been a hustler, if you will, like since I was a child. But no, I've traditionally been an employee because I was afraid of, just embracing my entrepreneur spirit. But I've had a side hustle forever. And I quit my job last April to do my own thing. And I cannot imagine doing anything different.
You think this the side hustle is like the gateway drug into entrepreneurialism?
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. The freedom to choose your own work, the freedom to do things that draw you from your soul. That's what started it. And then now that's what I get to do.
That's so cool. And so you are working with the guy that made The Onion. I find their stuff hilarious, and they've been making content for over a decade, like over 15 years even.
I think since the 90s.
Wow, that's really
Yeah. I think because it actually was a printed newspaper at one time back in the day before it was an online newspaper. It was like a printed newspaper.
that's pretty cool. And so you've been into comedy for how long? Is this, I mean, you're in the writers' rooms and all this, yeah?
So I've been doing comedy. November will be 12 years and been entertaining since I was born, came out the womb with jokes, but formally doing stand up since 2012. And, I've always been interested in it. I've watched comedy since I was a kid. Like when I wasn't allowed, I would sneak and watch like Sam Kinison and Richard Pryor and stuff that I had no business watching, but fell in love with the craft and used to like do skits and stuff for my friends and my family. Like I was that annoying kid that was like, look what I can do, which I still am, but now I'm just an annoying adult. Yeah.
And you're doing stand-up comedy or also skits and stuff?
I do a little bit of everything. I do some acting. I'll do some stuff here and there, improv. I was part of an improv troupe for a while. Sometimes I make funny stuff for YouTube. It just kind of depends, you know, and I have ADHD. And so for me, I kind of am all over the place. I also have some music. I've written some songs. Um, some are funny, some are serious. I have like this whole persona called the tax rapper because I'm an accountant. So, the tax rapper, yeah.
These bars. You probably got some heaters in there.
I mean, yeah, I got a few. If you really want me to bust them out, I will.
I would love that. Bust out some accounting bars right
Well,
now.
okay, so here's the deal, right? So I'm an accountant and that's my trade. And I feel like, why can't I be a rapper? Why can't I? First of all, I can mumble, I can rhyme, I know some gangsters. Ain't nobody more gangster than the IRS, okay? So
Facts.
I wrote a little ditty specifically for Uncle Sam. All right.
Shouts out.
Get your pen, fill out your 1040. Remember when the tax rapper warned me? Exploit the rules and work the system, but don't let no receipts go missing. Because one thing is true for the red, white, and blue. Uncle Sam gonna get his. They ain't playing with you.
Ooh, heat, fire. Oh my gosh. The accountant, the accountant rapper.
And that one is called Don't Make Me Bust a Cap in Your Assets.
Yo, yo, accountant rapper, I can make it rain too, baby. Hey, we got those receipts.
Oh, got them long receipts from CVS.
Yeah, that's actually, dude, they're like folded up. Oh, I made a big mistake here. I don't know. I made a this is too
Uh-oh,
much. This is
he
too
made a
much.
mess.
I've saved my receipts like a psychopath for ever since I started spending money. And I have
Nice.
them all right here.
Well, I save everything. I have a problem with hoarding receipts. I've got like bags, and at the end of the year, I have to figure out what to do with them.
As an accountant, what are you supposed to do with them? Because I've got them going back to like 2016. Do I need them?
7 years back is typical what the IRS will keep on record. So I would say to be safe, 10 years.
10 years. Okay,
Yep.
okay. All right. Well, then
Yep.
I'm in good shape then. All right. All right. Wow. I just learned so much about you. This is crazy. So we got you're an accountant, you're an entrepreneur consultant, you're a rapper. A pretty darn good one too, may I say. You're a stand-up comic. You're kind of a jack of all trades here. What has been the like epitome top of your stand-up career so far? Like what's been the coolest thing that you've done there?
Well, so I don't know if cool is the right term, but the nerdiest thing that I did is I won a competition in 2022, the funniest accountant in the South.
Oh, wow. I didn't know they had those type of award shows. That's
Yeah, yeah. So there's a group out of Atlanta that has been doing this for like 20 years, and they take basically like open call and people can apply, and then they whittle it down, and then we performed an event at the Roxy in Atlanta, sold out show. Got to perform in front of like 1,500 people, and the whole purpose of it was to get voted on. So they used the crowd engagement as like a vote, and then there was also like a panel, and then I won. So got to wear the crown and got paid, got a trip to Vegas for two.
get
And
out.
yeah, and we raised $100,000 for Junior Achievement of Georgia, which is a
What?
nonprofit who specializes in helping finance education for kids in need. So it's specifically for like finance and business, but it helps tuition and scholarships and things like that.
Well, that's very cool. That
Yeah.
is very cool. And I would use the word cool.
I mean, being the funniest accountant is like winning the prettiest hamster pageant, but
Hamsters, hamsters can be bad.
they can be cute.
Anyway, all right. Let's let's move on from that one. I don't know what's been going on. Gen Z, people my age, they're saying that things that are hot, like girls that are hot, they're bad.
Ah.
I don't know I don't get it. I would say they're good, but
Hmm.
what do I know?
I feel like it's old though. So I'm a millennial. I'm like an elder millennial because I'm 42. So I'm right on the cusp. And we used to say, "Oh, she's bad. Oh, he looks bad." Like we used to say it in that way, but we
Oh, so
mean
it's been a
good.
thing.
You didn't make it up. I'm sorry.
Well, I know I didn't make it up. I just thought it was my generation, but I guess not, dude.
Unfortunately, I don't think so. And I don't think my generation made it up either. I'm pretty sure they stole it from somebody else.
Well, I guess it'll be a mystery. All
Well,
right, so all right.
I try not to cut things because I'm lazy and editing just takes so much time, as I know you know.
Oh, I know. I worked on a video today for like 7 hours.
Whew,
It's a 2-minute video. Anyway,
dang. What software do you use?
Premiere Pro
Mm.
and CapCut. CapCut's very good. We all use CapCut at VT. It seems like something that wouldn't compete, but honestly, it kind of does.
So here's my concern with that software. So it's owned by the same company that owns TikTok, ByteDance, which means if you look at the terms and conditions, you have to give up a lot of privacy information and you have to give it a lot of permission. And so I'm a little bit paranoid. Like I have a TikTok account that I have like quarantined on my old phone that's not connected to a phone number, although I don't know if that matters, but I'm trying to like keep that stuff separate because I don't want to be invaded and I worry about that with CapCut.
It's Chinese spyware for sure. But you know, Premiere Pro is not innocent.
Mm.
They've been doing the same thing, even more egregious. They have been, and there's been proof. You can look it up. They announced that they're going to have access to everything that you do on Premiere Pro, and if it doesn't meet their guidelines, they can block you from editing it.
What? Oh
Yes.
wow.
If the
I
content's too risque, they can go, we're gonna pause you doing this, and you don't get to edit this one, which is insane.
That's really wild. I just am not comfortable with other people making decisions for me, whether they be corporations or the government. I want to be able to look at what I want and store what I want and edit what I want. So, didn't know that about Adobe, but that is sad. And I don't know that there are any companies out there that are not picking up these policies. It seems like that's the way we're moving as a society.
We've done this to ourselves, though. I mean, as much as we want to blame the corporations, all this stuff, we all willingly walked into it. I remember when I was a kid, I'd collect DVDs and physical media. And then there was a period where everything was switching over to everything's being streamed. I resisted for a couple years, but then I caved. Now I haven't watched a DVD in years. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
And Netflix and anybody, they can edit anything after it's already out, or what the heck? Um
The
they
power
can,
of AI. What?
yeah. It knows. No, it can edit anything after it's already out, and it can take things off if it wants to, or it doesn't meet the today's what's okay.
That's wild.
It,
Yeah, not to get super political, but it is concerning the way we're moving with the technology that has become such a crucial part of our everyday lives. And when it comes to social media, when it comes to search engines, when it comes to entertainment sites like YouTube and Netflix and whatnot, like they have so much control over us. It's crazy. And I don't know what the alternative could be, but it seems like there's some kind of a net around us that's tightening.
yeah, and I've actually been looking into it. I think the next step is and feel free to join me, we should become Amish. I'm gonna convert.
Okay, first of all,
I'm converting, even though I did put all my eggs into the video production basket, which is extremely online, and I do spend about 7 to 8 hours a day on my phone, but I think I can switch. I don't think I'm too far gone. I'm this close to being able to raise sheep. I can do it.
I mean, I don't know about sheep, but I know some Amish people because where my mom lives in Ohio is Amish country and they're very nice people. I don't think I would want to live that way, although I think I could. I genuinely think I could. It's just you just work, work, work every single day from dawn until dusk, and then you rinse and repeat. But they're good people, and I guess I
And
already know some Amish communities I can run away to if I need to.
plus, this is a plus, you get a really cool beard. Shave the stash, and
Yeah, you can only have it on the bottom half, right?
if you're married. I've looked into
Oh,
this. Yeah, yeah. The single men have to shave it, and then once you're married, you can grow out the beard, but you gotta shave the stash.
ah, yeah,
Look, I've looked into this. I'm like actually I'm for real.
I
I'm
could see
I'm
it.
I'm pretty close, but also not at all.
No, we're the last bastion of freedom, to be honest, and there's nowhere else to go. And off grid is not a thing anymore. Good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to my sister and her husband, and I'm like, guys, we need to make a game plan if the grid shuts down and if everything goes crazy. If the power goes out, we're toast. And they're like, nah, we'll be good. We can last without it. I'm like, you've never lasted without it a day in your life. Like, we're jacked in. I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to talk about all that. Even though it is kind of fun to talk about.
Well, I used to talk, I had a political talk show, so I will talk politics all day, and I have a lot of opinions and ideas. But I also used to work in government, so I have genuine experience in certain
Yeah.
areas. And my number one job that I really enjoyed when I worked for the government is policy. I wrote financial policy, and it was really a lot of fun. But that's for another conversation. I wanted to kind of talk about some things. You and I spoke briefly about some things that you have overcome in your life that were hardships for you, and one of them is your stutter. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. I am an open book.
So I did hear a little bit of stutter here and there. Has this been an ongoing problem for you? How does that work exactly?
Yeah, so it's been since I was a young boy. I went to speech therapy. I've gotten hypnotized. I've done everything people throughout my life would be like, you got to do this and you got to do that and you got to cut that little part underneath your tongue and you got to there was all these solutions and nothing worked at all because it would
Hmm.
still pop up. I didn't know if it was my mouth, if it was my throat. For many years, I absolutely hated it. I despised it. I'd come home every day crying. I'm like, I can't talk. And I
Hmm.
would constantly tell myself, I can't talk. Like when I would screw up, I would say out loud, I can't talk. And I spoke that into my life for a long time. And around high school, I decided because I moved every 2 years of my life. My parents are also crazy entrepreneurs and took a lot of risks and up and downs and going all over the place. And so, high school, when I moved to a new school, I decided I'm not going to let the stutter hold me back. And I'm going to stop saying that I can't talk and I'm going to do everything in high school that I can possibly do and stutter my way through it all. So I was involved in a lot of extracurricular activities and sports and started the debate club and did a bunch of things and stopped caring what people said about it and would make fun of it myself to kind of relieve the tension in the room, which was nice. And eventually, um, after all of that, I decided to go out of my comfort zone every single day. So I was going to, from about 16 onward, every day, do something, talk to somebody that I would not want to talk to, whether it be an elderly person at a store or a child or somebody in my class that I haven't talked to before or whatever that may be, an uncomfortable situation. I would put myself in purposefully. And I noticed over time that when you step out of your comfort zone expands. And then you keep stepping out of it and it keeps expanding. And over time, I'm able to speak pretty fluently to just about everybody. And that has been quite life-changing, and I think it articulates into more than just speech. That's my theory. I think you can do this with any problem you might have. A lot of people in my generation struggle with anxiety and depression and all these labels that we love to throw on how we're feeling in the moment. But I think the one way that we can overcome it without external medication on us or whatever you think would fix and it ends up leading to other side effects, I think taking a little bit of self action and stepping out of your comfort zone might be a solution.
I fully agree with you. Wow, that is amazing. I'm a huge Tony Robbins fan, and we believe the stories we tell ourselves. I know that for a fact. It's proven itself in my life as well. And a lot of times we are creating our reality without even realizing it by saying and thinking things. And if you say you can't do something, and if you say you're going to have a bad time, that's probably how it's going to go down. So by you saying that you can't talk, that was causing you to not be able to talk. And by deleting that from your just deleting that from your vocabulary makes a world of difference. And then replacing it with I can talk.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's that to me, no, you can't just create things out of thin air, but what you say and the things that you think, it goes such a long way towards just attracting the right things to your life.
Yeah, I love going to those type of Tony Robbins conferences and stuff. I've seen him in person. It's great. And I go to a lot of these leadership development things. And one of the things that was such a hang up for me for so long was the positive affirmation, talking to yourself in the mirror, like you're great, all this stuff. I thought that was so lame for so many years. I'm like, I don't need to do that. I gotta say though, after doing it and trying it out, it's pretty good. It works. To hype yourself up, to even be praying and ask God to give you the ability to love yourself and just that repetitive speaking to yourself thing. It does work. And that's something that I've noticed a little bit over the years that I thought was very lame for a long time. And somebody recently, this weekend, at Valuetainment, he said that every night he plays a voice memo of himself telling himself everything that he is of the things that he wants to become. And I'm like, that is the wackest thing I've ever heard. Like, that's crazy. You're falling asleep to yourself, hyping yourself up every night. That's insane. Then I kind of thought about it for a little bit, and I think I'm going to try it here soon because that self-conscious stuff is pretty powerful. And if you can convince yourself that you're super talented and that opportunities are going to come your way and all this stuff, it might just happen. So I don't know. I've always been I've always looked through that stuff through the lens of like God's in control, and I should pray about that. But it's kind of the same philosophy, speaking things into your lives, positive things. I know the Bible hypes me up every day. So, um, that's the lens that I look at through, but I don't think other people's lenses are wrong or don't work. So,
Well,
what do you think about all that stuff?
I'm a huge fan, and I also have felt in the past that it wouldn't work for me, um, because you write down a statement that doesn't resonate. Maybe you don't believe it's true about yourself,
Right?
and I've gone back and forth on that. But I'll tell you, I went through an experience back in 2016. It was a very traumatic experience. Uh, Sexually assaulted, and had to overcome those emotions while dealing with an investigation that went nowhere because justice is not really a thing. And just try to maintain my sanity, which I didn't do a very good job doing. But it really put a damper on my ability. Like, I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't want to go outside. I didn't want to go be on stage. Like that's for sure. I didn't want to go and step foot on the stage and do stand up, but at some point, so I pretty much stopped doing any kind of stand up. But at some point I had to lead a workshop for my job and there was no getting out of it. So I had to get over my kind of newly found stage fright, but really I think it was just fear of everything. And so what I did is I wrote down a bunch of affirmations and I stuck them all over my house. And at first I didn't really believe them, but I would say them anyway. And then at some point I did start to believe them. And I was able to work through my stage fright. It took me like 4 months of doing this consistently because I gave myself plenty of time knowing that I was going to have to work on this workshop and I was willing to do anything to make it work. And I did the recordings myself. I did like the person you're talking about, and it sounded so goofy at first, but I really like fell in love with it. Like I fell in love with myself again. And I think that's what I needed to do. Instead of living in fear, I learned how to live in love again and nailed that workshop, knocked it out of the park, got a bonus for it. Got to do
Nice.
a few more after that, and then I was able to kick it to the curb, the stage fright.
Very nice. Well, hey, if it worked for you, it might work for me too. So
Yeah.
I'll try it out. I was very resistant to it for a little bit there. Um, but yeah, seems intriguing.
Well, I definitely encourage you to give it a try, and it might feel goofy, but write down things that you can resonate with and then just give it a try and just put it on a loop. You never know.
Never know till you try. I'll see. You have a huggy?
Yeah, I'm sorry. My boyfriend is home, and so the dogs are barking as they do. But let's see. I wanted to ask one more thing about you. So I know you love leadership development programs. Is there a particular person that you follow or a school of thought that you lean towards?
Yeah, so I am not too big of a fan of like I don't know, I guess I would say like celebrity worship, I guess. Even though we live in a culture that is defined by it. Um I have found I've been very blessed to find some mentors in real life that I can connect with that are not famous, that subscribe to I guess we would call it serving leadership. And I see this becoming an increasingly popular thing, but it's something as old as the beginning of time. Jesus was a servant leader. It talks about in um, Romans how he had the power of God and he chose to take the heart posture of a servant over using that power to do anything. I think that's very powerful. And so Dr. Andrea Hazim and Dr. Jeff Hazim, my own dad, these are some people that have really poured into my life. My papa, these people that taught me that integrity matters, your word matters, and your reputation matters. You should uphold your family name. That to be a good leader and lead people properly, you are not the boss talking down to them, but you are lifting all of them up, and you're at the bottom, and you are not willing to ask them to do something that you wouldn't do yourself. And I think that implemented into my life has been extremely powerful, extremely humbling, and has given me the ability to get where I am now and never ever feel an ego bruise of somebody asking me to get them something or to do this or to do that, but to be blissfully joyful to do it. And that unreasonable hospitality
Hmm.
has got me a long way.
That's a book, right?
That is a book by Gradera. He's speaking at the Vault this year,
Hmm. Nice.
and Pat. I mean, I get a lot from Pat too. Patrick Bet David is definitely something that's a
Hmm.
celebrity that I would say has influenced me a lot. And he talks a lot about um, unreasonable hospitality. and how important it is for business and
Yeah.
life.
I've had the servant leadership mindset for a long time. I think I was indoctrinated, if you will, because I
Nice.
started out my career working in food service. And so I worked in a kitchen, and it was just a matter of like I was serving for the chefs, I was serving for the cooks, I was serving for the waiters and waitresses, and I was like a chef assistant. And then from there I went and worked at Walmart, and they preach it, and they were heavy on the customer service back then. And then I worked in a call center. And between those three, it really beat it into my brain that you need to serve other people. And, it's all about really building a relationship and a connection with each individual person and treating them like a human being. But I love what you said about not looking to celebrities, because so many people make that mistake. And all we get to see is what they show us. Whereas with real life mentors, you can see them in multiple situations and you get to know the real them, not just the them that they want to show you. And I love that. I definitely have some real life heroes as well, and people that I look to, professors, coworkers, old bosses, and even people that have not always been good. Like one of the people that's really meant a lot to me in my life is my stepdad, who passed away in 2017. But, he was a drug addict. He was a felon. He turned his life around and became an upstanding citizen and gave back to the world and did his best to try to make amends for the harm that he caused when he was going through all of his crazy stuff in his youth. And so, you know, those are the people that I look to.
That's good. Yeah, that transformation story is it's powerful because I fall into the camp of that people can change. There's a lot of people that say that they don't ever change, but I don't subscribe to that ideology at all. I used to smoke pot every single day, all day, every day since I was like 12 years old.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, very
Wow.
young, very young. I used to watch pornography a lot. I got exposed at 8 years old
Oh
um,
gosh.
on the school bus on somebody's phone, and then he wrote down a link on like a sticky note and handed it to me. He said, "Hey, look this up." And those two things had a grip on me for a long time, and I treated them both almost like supplements, like they were helping me or benefiting
Mm.
me or they were medicine. And over time, my goodness, I got so I don't even know how to say it. Like there was a point where I almost felt like I was autistic. Like I couldn't function in like I there was a point where it got so bad I could not leave the house, and I was just like jumpy and just like making weird sets of sounds and just like totally just not functional. It was very alarming to everybody, and I did not understand what it was. I would alternate so much in my moods, like I was super depressed where I was wanting to die, and
Mm.
then I'd be on top of the world, and I realized that after the fact, that was just because I was hitting the dopamine so much that when I wasn't, I felt so sad, and so that fluctuation made me feel crazy. I went to a therapist, went to a psychologist. They said I was bipolar, that I had to get on these drugs and all this. I've never taken a pill in my life. I've never taken an Advil.
Oh
I've
wow.
I've broken bones. Don't take any pain pills. Like I have stayed away from all that stuff. And so I didn't get on the pills, but I decided to have a major life change and stop smoking pot and stop watching pornography. And it was honestly God that inspired it. I wouldn't have thought to do those things. I thought they were amazing. And man, I gotta say, it was a little bit of a hard in the beginning, but after 2 months, after being off that stuff, I gotta tell you, my moods that were fluctuating like crazy are now so at homeostasis, and the peace and joy is supernatural. And I couldn't recommend those things more. I feel like a whole new person. And I feel like again, people can change because I know I've changed so much.
Yeah.
So
Well, congratulations. That is no small feat. Quitting an addiction to weed and quitting an addiction to porn are two things that on their own are amazing. And the fact that you did both is phenomenal. I know people that have addictions to those substances, and I'm I've seen relationships be destroyed by porn addiction. And what you said, you said it perfectly. It's the chemicals. We get addicted to the chemicals, however we're getting them, whether it be through porn, whether it be through eating, drugs, etc. It's the chemicals that we get addicted to. And then you were out of whack. You have this chemical imbalance because you had all these surges, and then what's regular seems depressing. And I can
yeah,
relate to that to some degree. I'm an adrenaline junkie, and I'm also diagnosed bipolar, but I don't do meds because I regulate through activities and I know how my body works in my brain. It took a long time to get to that place. But I'm also not someone that ever really takes medication unless I'm like really, really desperate.
sure.
But congratulations to you. And for anybody out there that is fighting with any kind of addiction, it really starts with believing you can change. And just as simple as saying, like, I'm not going to do this forever. Just to get that thought circulating around in your brain that loosens up that addiction a little bit, and then tell yourself, I can be sober, I want to be sober, I enjoy being sober, or whatever the case may be that you're trying to overcome.
I would say so much. I'm so happy I'm not high right now. It, anytime I was out, anytime that I felt like I would want to be, I was like, man, I'm so happy I'm not. And just saying out loud, now I really believe it. Like now I'm like, I feel more like myself than I've ever felt. I feel like opportunities have opened up for me beyond any point in my life. Now that I am, I don't know, uh, authentically me without external substance influencing it. And I could not recommend it more. I'm telling you, when you get into a homeostasis on how you're designed to be without all these, with limiting external influence, because we're so
Hmm.
bombarded by everything that to limit what you can regulates you. And it's really, really powerful. And those two things, if a lot of people overlook them, I wouldn't. I think they're huge. They're affecting people way more than they think.
Yeah, I agree there. So the only other thing that I would maybe add to the conversation is I'm not a Christian, so I went down that path. I got saved. I didn't grow up with religion, and then I got saved when I was like 18, and then I fell out of it after traveling the world and reading about different religions. And um, I do believe there's a creator. I think there's definitely something there, but I don't go the religious route, but I'm big on meditation and going inward to reflect and kind of speak to your higher consciousness, which if you're a believer, then that's the Holy Spirit for you.
Yeah,
But there's just so much importance with reflecting. And I think a lot of people are afraid to do that. They're afraid of that. That's why they're constantly distracting themselves with drugs, with porn, with social media, with alcohol, with food, with TV. It's because they're afraid of looking at themselves.
yeah, I agree. I think now it's getting interesting though. So now we have a disagreement. We've agreed the whole podcast. Now we have a disagreement. Why, after being quote unquote saved at 18, what about this researching other religions swayed you to then not believe in any of them?
Well, if I have to believe in one story, I have to believe in all the stories because all of the stories have merit. All of them have a consistent thread. And the way that I see it, no one is better than the other. Um, I follow the teachings of Jesus because I like the teachings,
I
but
get it.
that's not the same as, being a believer. Anybody could have written those principles, they still would resonate. And I also traveled in the Middle East, and I I went close to Mecca, and I don't know. I just there's definitely something there, some kind of a creator. I don't know what it is exactly, but I think it's the same. I think it's like the telephone game. I think all religions are from the same origin, and it became passed around and translated and shared, and now we have all of these different religions just like we have the different languages. But I think there's definitely something there. I don't know if it's a god or a machine, or maybe it's AI, or maybe it's us in the past, but I do think we were created. I don't necessarily buy into the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, to me, the Big Bang Theory and God spoke the universe into existence are the same exact concept, just reworded. I think a lot of it, to kind of be on your note a little bit, even though I have my disagreements, I think a lot of it, it's saying the same exact thing, just in a slightly different way, with a slightly different lens, slightly different culture. I understand where you're coming from, but I think getting close to Mecca and feeling something, I agree with you. There's something there. I think it's Satan, personally.
And Mecca?
Yes. It's Abrahamic religion, but they had an offshoot. I don't think Muhammad is the same as Jesus. I don't think they're both equally prophets. Muhammad might have been a cool dude. From what I hear, he was marrying women that were the ages of 9 to 13. Interesting. He was killing people that don't agree with him. Interesting. Christ, biblically speaking and historically speaking, it is unprecedented how perfect he lived a life, and that's something to look into. And from my personal experiences, along with so many countless others throughout history, the Holy Spirit is real. You can totally call it whatever. I think you can call angels aliens, extraterrestrial, what your higher self, whatever you want to call it, is great. But I know that God, Yahweh, Yeshua, Jesus, he doesn't want a religionship with you. He wants a relationship. So I totally don't subscribe. I don't like religion because you know what? The Christianity, it's so splintered. There's 40,000 different denominations.
Yeah.
40,000 that all agree that all think that they're the right one, that they're the holiest one, and that they're the best one.
Hmm.
And to me, that it looks the exact same as other religions saying like, what the heck, like everybody thinks that they're right when they're all disagreeing, so they all can't be right. It's very, very intriguing. And you know what? I think I think you've opened my eyes a little bit as
Maybe
far as
they
like,
are all right though,
how can they all be right if they're disagreeing?
because they've got their it's right for them. What's right for them is right for them. The problem becomes when you're trying to say what's right for you now has to be right for everyone else. And that's where the problem comes into play with anything. And the same goes back to politics. You know, what's right for you and what works perfectly for you is different than what's right for me and what works perfectly for me, because we all have different values. You know, we all have access to the same values, but we don't rank them in the same order, right? So, like justice, truth, fairness, equality, we all have those values in some realm in our views, in our ethics, but we rank them differently. And so it's because of that different in ranking that you're always going to have a different variation of everything.
To go a little deeper, it is how it's ranked, but it's also how you define these words.
Mm-hmm.
What is justice? What is equality? I think
Yeah.
equality is a good example of that word seems so certain that everybody can agree that equality means that we're all equal and that nobody's better than the next. But equality has become this word that has totally gone off the beaten path. Where now, I mean, equality could just mean gay now, or it could be connected in somebody's mind to different races and how we need to allow African American people a easier time to get into a college because that's equality. It's like, and so to define these certain words, what is justice? You said earlier in the podcast, there's no such thing as justice in this country. I think justice for you and justice for me can look very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so who defines these things? Well, we all could on an individual basis, but now you see this moral selective culture that we're in right now, where everybody is basing it off themselves. And when they base their worldview and these words off of what's in their head, you can't relate to anybody else. And so that's why I think
Mhm.
it's so important to get behind defining these things for certainty and being okay with going, hey, I don't think equality means that. I don't think justice means that. I think it means this, and having a healthy little debate over it. And yes, that person is totally free to walk away and not take any of it on. In my personal worldview, the Bible defines these words very well and precisely like a knife. And when you read them, it cuts through your bone marrow. It's like it's unprecedented. And I think Western culture drifted from it, but it was founded upon these principles and these definitions of these words, and it worked out pretty well for at least a little bit. But now we've kind of gotten off track, but
Well, definitions are important for sure in any regard, and being able to communicate and conflict resolution is something I teach a lot. When you're trying to negotiate with someone and resolve a conflict, you have to get on the same page with your definitions before you can even start communicating, because otherwise you're just going to talk over each other.
right.
Um, we do need to have some actual work done surrounding definitions when we have conversations about things like equality and equity and diversity and inclusion that are these hot topic items right now, because it is different. And what's happening is everybody has their own definition in their brain of what they think it should be. And then now you aren't able to communicate. You're talking at each other and talking over each other. But in general, definitions are huge. And if you look at any word in a dictionary, it's going to have multiple. So which one are you actually using at the time? And so it even goes deeper than that. But when it comes to the Bible, I have read it. I've also read a lot of other talk, the Talmud, the Torah, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita. Like I've read a lot of stuff. And when you talk about definitions, you have to go all the way back to the original. So I don't know if you speak Hebrew, but you have to go all the way back to really know what the intent was. And it's going to look a lot different in Hebrew, in Greek, in Latin versus in English. And
Right.
so etymology is so fascinating, like getting to the root of a word and truly understanding what was meant by it. That's just a very interesting thing to do with words. And whenever I start having conversations with anybody about religion, I typically will do that. I will look at the root word when it was first spoke or written. And with the Bible, I think that would have been Hebrew, right?
It depends because the Old Testament, yes, but the New Testament is Greek and
Or
oh,
Greek, yeah.
so yeah, it's a little different. I have a Hebrew Bible, like the exact translated from Hebrew to English. It's so wildly
I
different.
bet.
Like the words like it kind of goes over my head a little bit. And these like the NIV and the New King James and all this stuff, they like kind of dumb it down for us Americans, like as far
Hmm.
as the language goes, like similar same concepts. But yeah, you can read two different Bibles and go, wait a second, oh, I like that word used there. So like that makes so much more sense. Happens
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. Like the word agape, for example, when we talk
Agape
about
love.
love. Well, Daniel, this has been great. I really appreciate all of the variety of topics that we have covered.
Yeah, we hit
And
so much. It was
I
crazy.
know we could go for like 4 hours, I'm sure. And we should definitely do it again sometime.
Yeah, this has been an absolute pleasure. I enjoyed it. I even enjoyed our little debate discussion at the end there. That was fun. I hope that your audience was able to get some good stuff out of this, some good wisdom golden nuggets. I don't classify myself as a wise person, but I hope you got something out of this and enjoy the show.
Well, thank you so much. And it's been great just hearing how you have raised your bar in life and in business and in your career. And Danny, for anybody that wants to follow you, do you have anything that you want to share? Any websites, social media plugs, anything like that?
Check out Valuetainment on YouTube. I have no social media other than LinkedIn. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'm Daniel DeBrincat on LinkedIn. But check out Valuetainment. Watch the PBD podcast. I support what they're doing over there. I don't just work there. I love it, and I think it's amazing. And I'd recommend you to watch it. My Nana watches it. She's 83. She loves it. So
It's
maybe you will too.
the name is perfect. You get valuable information and it's entertaining. Like it was a great name.
Great name.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Daniel. Appreciate it. And until next time, keep raising your bar.
Thank you so much. You keep raising your bar. And subscribe and like and comment also.
Thank you.